Hello there, my name is John Blackburn and I'm just going to go through my game that I played for Wales today against Spain. Played a guy called Manuel Perez Candelaria. He was only 405 FIDE rating points higher than me, so it's no surprise what the outcome was. I'll take you through the game. He played e4 as I prepped him before the game and saw that he always played e4, and I always play the French. I'm not going to change from that. And I found that he did have a couple of games where he played the winner of variation, the knight c3, and I'm always going to go bishop b4 here. And knight f6 is another option, or c5 are a bit too loose for me. e5, c5 still main line, and then a3. And here I decided to go down a different line. Normally I retreat the bishop back to a5. However, I thought, and I looked at before the game, that I can just get him a little bit out of theory, just in case he's actually looked me up to see what I play, and take the knight and then play queen a5. There are other moves that you can play, such as queen c7 or knight e7. Sorry, so after queen g4 taking on g7, it goes something a little bit like this. So you can either do this. You can sometimes defend the pawn, but this is some sort of there, and it gets really tricky here. Knight, and this is just really quite a bit of a mess and very tactical. And so I didn't want to go down that line against him. But I saw that queen a5. I had a look at this before the game, and I was very happy with the positions that I got from it. The idea being that just simply attacking this pawn here. Of course, bishop d2 is what he played, which is still main theory. Queen a4 is the standard move, because white's normal break is the pawn to c4, and this breaks open all of these the position, because he's got the two bishops against the bishop and knight, so therefore he wants the position open rather than having the position closed. So anyway, he played queen g4, which attacks the pawn on g7, so I've got to do something about it. I know that g6 is an option. However, I know that king f8 is a little bit more popular at the moment, and I was quite happy to play king f8. I played it when I was really young, in a different line, albeit. He plays queen back to d1. It's quite a simple plan: just make my king move so I can't castle, which actually comes into the game to be very annoying. Play b6, c4. I think it's another move. This is just a different way of playing. He takes it and I take it, and then round about here I was starting to get out of theory. I couldn't quite remember what the ideas are. I think he just played a simple move such as knight f3, and here I had a big think, because I was a little unsure as to what I wanted to do next, because I think really what I should do is just develop my knights to some nice squares, just here, and then trade off the bishops. But for some reason I just decided to play bishop to a6 first of all, and maybe this lost me a tempo, and I took back with the queen because I don't want my knight to be on a6. This knight's got to be either on c6 or on d7, and if it goes to a6 it's kind of out of the game. It'll probably get stuck there. He plays bishop e3, attacking the pawn. Knight goes to d7 to defend it, and here comes the kind of like the first big kind of moment in the game. So he's offering the exchange of queens, which is really important for the next few moves, because do I want to swap queens, yes or no? And actually, I think really here, I was just a bit scared, and what I looked at was some like queen takes queen, king takes queen, and then he's just getting a rook to b1, coming into b7, and this is going to cause me a lot of problems, because then it just goes to c7 and it actually attacks this pawn, and I couldn't figure out a way of actually stopping this from happening at the time. So maybe I should play something different here. I ended up playing queen c6, but I put it on the computer, and the computer seems to think I can get away with doing queen takes queen and somehow surviving, but I think it's quite difficult to come up with that at the board. I mean, queen c6 wasn't too bad in the end, but I think that white's got a definite edge now, by just simple play. He castles kingside, get my last knight out, and then he plays rook to b1. Again, I'm still not developed because my king's on f8, which is the biggest problem for me, because I want to, I can't really play g6 and then king g7 because it's just too weakening on the dart squares. So actually what I have to do is I have to play something like h6 first, then play g6, and then king g7 if I'm going to get my king out that way, or even maybe h6 and then king to g8 and h7. And it's really difficult for me to develop, and I need to look at ways of trying to get my king just moved forward one square wherever it can go, just to connect my rook so I can compete for these files. And I didn't manage to solve those problems because we've only had a couple of moves gone, but actually he's threatening to play queen b5 here and trade queens again, which I wasn't happy with because I just thought he's just going to penetrate with the rook on this b7 square. And then eventually pick up this pawn because I'm not going to be able to defend it with anything because I can't connect rooks. And the key thing is that if my king goes to this square, the rook will pin across the 7th rank and therefore the pawn's undefended again. So I still need a space for my king. Like I said, he's graded 25/90, so he's a good player. And that's why I play a6 to stop queen b5. And straight away doesn't give me any breathing space whatsoever. Plays c4, breaking open the centre. My original plan was to actually leave the pawns here and maybe sort out my king, so maybe a move like h6 was something I was looking at. However, I spotted an idea to play d4, d2, and to actually try and get the centre for myself by playing f6. A key point being pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, and now this check kind of doesn't do too much. I mean, you can play knight here if he wants to try and get this queen to h5, but I'm just going to block with this knight. And there isn't actually any tactics there, and when I'm ready to do so, I'm going to put this pawn on e5, and I'm going to have all my pawns on dart squares in the centre of the board, and they're really going to make this bishop pretty useless. And I was really happy if he was going to go in for something like this. I've also got kind of tactics on the g2 pawn as well if I want to put a rook on g8. And he can't invade down here because I've got all of these squares covered. And this was these kind of variations was exactly what I was hoping he'd go for. However, he doesn't let me have a nice position, and he plays rook fe1. And I should have really just played king f7 here and just allowed him to swap off. But I finally saw that he's got this move coming, c3, which was going to cause me a lot of problems because if I don't take it, I'm going to just lose a pawn on d4. But if I do take it, this bishop's going to be really powerful on this diagonal when it comes to here. So I probably made a bit of a bad move here and chose to block the position up some more. Kind of also thinking that, well, I've got the two knights against the knight and the bishop. If I block the position up, that must be good for me. I'm temporarily giving in this square here on g5, but I am just going to play h6 sooner rather than later. And to my surprise, he's still got c3, and I did miss this move, or the idea behind this move, shall we say, when he played it, and the idea being that when I take and he takes back, he's just going to put a rook on d1, and he's going to stick it onto d6, which pretty much wins the game there and then. So I was really disappointed with myself that I hadn't foreseen this kind of idea. If we go back to c3, and that's why I chose to play d3, just to get his queen on the d file, and actually the queen on d6 isn't as bad for me as a rook. I know that I'm a pawn down at this point, but he's got double pawns here, and this pawn here actually hampers his bishop, so it's not a full pawn that I'm down if I can get exchanges to an endgame. However, he plays it really well. And notice how he's got this rook on this open b file here, and this is a marauding rook and can come in, or if it's got some support from somewhere, especially if he's going to stick a piece on d6. And notice what he does over the next few moves. So I play h6, which obviously stops control of the g5 square. I can possibly play g5 myself and get my king forward, and my rooks are connected. And here he plays a move such as rook b to d1. Really good move. He assesses that he needs to keep his rooks in the centre because that's where my king is. and he's not going to double up on the b file, so therefore his rook's actually better on the d file. Finally start to make some moves. So there was a tactic here, possibly bishop to h6, although it's more of a cheap shot rather than actual winning tactic. So knight to b6, and actually you can foresee positions where my knight could actually be quite good here. If it goes to this square, it could go to a4, and then a4, it attacks c3. This knight could, if I get time to play, I can untangle my pieces, and actually it could be quite good for me. But he's a good player, and he attacks this pawn on c5, so my queen's tied down to it now. Finally, I connect my rooks, but he just plays queen e2. It's guarding c4, and this rook is coming down to this d6 square. And I don't think there's anything I can do here to stop the invasion. And then once that rook gets to d6, I'm just busted. And if I had to play a rook to d8. I was kind of deciding which rook to play. I guess another option would be to play something horrible like knight to c8, but then my rooks are disconnected again, and it's not something I want to do. I had to play rook to d8, hoping that he wouldn't play rook to d6, which is an absolute killer move. I won't tell you why. You can have a little go first of all. If I move my queen back here, which I didn't do, it's just horrible for me. He's got so many tactics going on. The computer's even suggesting bishop takes pawn h6, actually, probably moving this knight out the way to allow the queen to come to h5, because my pieces are just so tied up, and I could not see the point in playing this kind of game. He's going to just win very quickly. He can even double up on the d file. So I decided to go, okay then, just prove it to me first of all, and decided to take the pawn. And here's a great opportunity for you, if you want to pause the video for a couple of minutes, spot the tactic for white, the move that wins the game. And it's quite a few moves deep, this is. It's something that you need to look at. So pause the video now for a couple of minutes, have a look, see if you can find what white did next. Okay, so my opponent, and I had a look at bishop takes c5 first of all, but actually there's a better way of winning. There's actually bishop to f4. Just being that the bishop covers all of this diagonal, so my queen can't retreat there. My queen can't retreat to c6 or d7, because if it does, then there's a knight fork on both squares. So I'm kind of forced. I mean, I could play e5 and give up the pawn, but I'm kind of forced to take the bishop. In which case, it's quite a nice simple tactic. It just does queen takes pawn, king f8, queen takes knight check, only move, king g8, and then queen to e6. And when I move my king, he's picking up this knight on b6. And that's just winning the game. So I resigned at this point. I was interested to see though, and I didn't look at it at the game actually, after what knight e5 would do, and I was a bit surprised he didn't play it, because I thought this might be checkmating me at some point. Yeah, the computer's suggesting queen takes knight, so I thought knight e5 might have been the quick way, but he just decided, and probably rightly so, there's no point trying to calculate any tactics or make it harder for yourself. Just win the game how you're happy to win it, and he's going to be a piece up. There's no point continuing from here on in. For me, because the knight's just going to win the game, especially with the weakness of my king as well. So just going to do queen takes knight. But yeah, I don't feel like I did too much wrong, but all those small mistakes just kept adding up, and he was a very good player in the end. So that was only round one, so there's still 10 more rounds left. So I think we're going to get some easier opposition tomorrow. Unfortunately, the team lost 4-0 today. Although when you consider their board 4 was higher graded than our board 1, you can see the difference in their abilities there at the time. It's going to take a few years for us to try and compete at that level. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. If you like the video, just give it a thumbs up, and I'll try and do a video every day.